Yeah, so speaking of the templates and presentations, Kai-Ching, yeah, I would say we should not longer wait, and the stage is yours. So yeah, I wish you a nice webinar.
All right. Thanks, Nelly, for the introduction. So if you have more questions, you can ask Nelly. I'm really a fan of their work. I think a lot of you and our clients face the frustration of always having to manually create slides, which is very time consuming. And sometimes, we have just so many different versions of presentation, right? Like maybe every year there's like a new layout, and then marketing team would send out an email, which I'm not so sure whether people read. And sometimes there are a lot of resources that are underutilized and people don't even know about it. And I believe some of you are Empower users as well. Just to get a sensing, can you type in the chat, are you already an Empower user? Yes or no? Are you already an Empower user? You can type in the chat, yes or no. Oh, perfect. Good. Okay, we've got a good mix. I think I'm pretty sure a lot of Empower users are probably have a lot of good things to say. Again, you don't have to be an Empower user to benefit from today's session, but you do need a PowerPoint. Just a disclaimer, the computer that I'm using right now is a MacBook. And the reason why I'm putting this disclaimer out is because there might be some slight change in terms of the interface. It might be different from what you're seeing, but all the functionalities and the features are there. So if you're struggling to find something that I'm showing you later on, you can type in the chat. After every short demonstration that I make, I would save some time for you to practice and then Q&A. So don't worry if you are struggling to find things that I'm showing you. We have opportunity to address those concerns, all right? And without further ado, I'd like to begin. So the reason why we are doing this is because I think we all know that you have more important things to do rather than designing slides. And making your slides look pretty is important, but it's not as important as making your message clear. So for us, we create winning presentations for our clients, be it whether it's boardroom meeting, on stage, or for a big conference. Yeah. The philosophy behind it's really about the content. But as an agency, there are some hacks that we use in order to turn around all this visually aesthetic and compelling slides within a very short period of time. And we also do train people on how to do that. And on a day-to-day basis, I think you don't necessarily have to create like a poster for every slide. It's more templatized, and that's where the automation part comes in. So you've got privilege to learn everything here, complimentary, and more on the list. If you have requests, you can also type it in the chat. And regardless of whether you're doing a technical presentation or whether you're doing something that it's more marketing based, it's really about turning any complex information into clear visuals. So you can see in the example over here, all right? Lots of formulas. How can we translate it into what you see at the bottom? And then if this is something that you use often as a layout, can you turn it into a template or a slide master so that you can just, within a few clicks of a button, or even certain things that look a little bit more text heavy or again, technical. Can you format the colors accordingly, know where to place certain icons, etc.? Or even like this is more marketing style. So for those of you here who are prioritizing how to design slides in order to clarify your message, unfortunately, that wouldn't be our main focus today. Our main focus would be on some hacks for power users. Ideally, 1 or 2 is good enough for you to save lots of time during this presentation creation process. But if you really like to understand the philosophy and the principles behind turning something complex into clear visuals, you can write this down. If you take a look at this 2 slides, the before is where my mouse is, all right, over here. The first step is always to break apart key points. So you want to highlight the keywords. And as you can tell in this other example, which is the after, we've got the headline, we know what exactly to bold, and then we also break down some of the key numbers. So only when you have clarity of the number of key points in your slides, can you then think of, what are some slide layouts that I can turn into masters, that I can use often and frequently? So it always starts with understanding what your key point is. Content over aesthetic, all right? So I've got tons of tips today. Would also like to understand how you're currently presenting or putting together presentations right now. Can you type in the chat A, B, or C? What is your current slide creation process? What is your current slide creation process? A, B, or C? You can type it in the chat. See a lot of copying and pasting as well. Got it. And then for those of you who type B, which is, I think, the majority, when you use a template, I'm also curious to understand how you're using it right now. So let me give you an example. All right. How many of you, when you use a template, this is what you do. Okay. This is my slide. So I have some slide masters. You can see the pop-up right now, right? I have some slide masters. I go to this. I type in my headline. And then what I do with this template is that I create a text box and then I type down my bullet point, maybe message 1, message 2, and 3. How many of you do this? If you do this, say me. That means you manually add text boxes to existing layouts that were provided to you. If that's you, you can type in the chat me. Okay. And all right, who else? Okay, it's quite a few. Okay. If you're not so sure what I'm talking about, I'm just going to do a very simple demonstration that's going to blow your mind. The first time when I realized it many years ago, I was shocked because we have these amazing templates provided by our companies, but we are not entirely using them fully and making the most out of it. So tip number 1 that I have over here, if you can take a look at this slide, okay, and this slide, they look the same, right? Yes. But the back end of how this is being designed is very different, and it's going to make a difference in the amount of time you take should you change your content or change the style. So if you take a look at this slide number 10 over here, when I click on layout, this is actually created from a blank slide. Okay. So if I were to change, if I want to maybe shift the position of the picture from right to left, and I want to change it using another layout, nothing happens when I click on this. But if you take a look at this other slide, slide number 9, again, at the top, I have layout. Can you see? Instead of creating from a blank slide, it's picture with caption. So I'm going to do the same thing again by changing the layout and watch the magic, all right? So now the image is on the right-hand side. And now with a click of the button, the image has become on the left. Not only that, it's being cropped. Not only that, it has also changed in terms of the font color. Just one button. So for those of you who type me, where you're using the most basic layout with just a header and nothing else, please, 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 step number 1 is to think about what are some key messages you want to highlight in your slide. And then go to this slide layouts that are already created for you. I think some companies have more extensive library of layouts and some have less. But what you want to do is to pick the one that allows you to contain the number of key message. So in this case, I have one key headline with supporting body text, correct? So I want to choose one that is quite close. I shouldn't choose this one, this particular slide layout, it's comparison. So now I have 1 point on the left, then maybe I can fill in some other points on the right, the headline over here, something like that. Okay, so step number 1, it's always to think about key message, select the right layout first, and then design your slides from there. It's cool, right? So already this is going to save you a lot of time. And then you might ask, okay, how do I create this cool looking thing? You know, this arrow, or, you know, how do I change the direction of the image, etc. This is where we're going to go into tip number 2. First and foremost, actually, before you do that, we already have the number 2 feature. what do you, create, okay. So just a click of the button. I guess that's for Empower users, right? But if you don't already have that, typically when you create a PowerPoint, if your corporate template, it's not very extensive, what you get is probably just a logo at the bottom and then a headline. Is that correct? And then everything else is up to your creativity. And usually that's the most frustrating part, because it's like, how do I know how to organize my content? Or what should I put on the left, on the right? What should the visual flow be like? And if you're in the marketing department in charge of creating templates, functional templates for your team, you have to consider what are some of the content that they will be using. And also, how can you make something that is wordy a lot more visual without compromising the depth of the slide? So this particular slide that I'm going to share with you over here, not this one, just one moment. So if you take a look at, say, this slide, one second. Some slides, we can't really afford to just have a few bullet points of information. So you have maybe rows of content, and then you format it and style it in quite a neat way. It looks organized. But the thing is, in terms of visual processing, typically we read from left to right, top down, correct? So you read from left and then to right, and because the slide is long in terms of dimension, you have to do the zigzag thing for 2, 4, 6, 9, about 9 rows of information. So you can think about, okay, now I have 9 points. Can I, instead of making it in a row by row basis, columnize it instead, like this? I've not removed any words at all, but suddenly it feels like we have more space to even put in icons. And you can even create 2 layouts depending on who your target audience is, whether they prefer more visuals or they prefer less. If less, then you can have this layout. If more, you can have this layout, 2 options. Then you create the slide masters from there. All right, so going back to functionality, how exactly do you want to portray the information so that it's easy for people to digest? Rather than the top-down bullet point style, there are actually a lot of different formats and way that we can organize our information. So how do we do that? For those of you who are familiar with HighSpark and our training course, this is going to be a refresher. It never gets old. It's a timeless principle because we can see it anywhere in terms of publication, marketing posters, slides, any kind of design. It's all about visual hierarchy. What we want to do is to identify patterns. How many key points do we have on the slide? What are some repeated elements, such as images? And then you can also take a look at each point. There is a number that is embedded in it. 3 images. If they match with each of these bullet points, can we make it into 3 columns? And then if we do so, can we paraphrase this bullet number 2 so that we start each point with a number as well? The answer is yes. Ta-da! So this is what we have. You have a row of image, a row of number, which is bigger in terms of font size. And when you create like a placeholder, it's going to be separate from this other body text style as well. So you have 3 different layers. Then you can create a template from this. All right. So this is the thought process. And for those of you who are thinking, okay, my slides are a little bit more text-worthy, it's still the same in terms of layout. It's always the headline. Do you want to have 2 columns, 3 columns? How exactly is the flow going to be like? Or even something like this. This was taken from a PwC report. There is clear hierarchy, 3 columns, some data points, and an image. Again, this can be your template. And then we have the last one, completely text. But still, it looks really neat. So what people really need to do is to open up the template and then pick the right one and then just fill in the blanks, nothing else. And if there's a change of brand, style, color, or even very tiny things like footer, instead of changing it one by one, all you have to do is just to click one button. Later, I'm going to show you how to avoid doing manual removal of footer and also automatically apply the styles across slides as well. Okay, so this is what I encourage all of you to do. If you don't already have a template or you feel like your template that you're provided with is very limiting, create your own. depending on the nature of content that you frequently have to present. Is it a case study? Do you usually have 1 photos, 2 photos? Do you usually have 3 points on your slides, 5 points, or is it more text heavy? How does your chart look like even? So create your own template. And in order to do that, always start with a sketch. So this is an example where we have we call it a wireframe. It's like a user interface term. We can do it for slides as well. You use boxes to indicate, is this going to be an image or is this going to be a headline? And if there are specific elements that you want to call out, like $188 billion, this is something that I want it to be more infographic style, then I highlight it in terms of visual. And this is going to be the final output. So this is the prototype. It's going to save you a lot of time. You can even create like 20 or 30 of these layouts and then maybe outsource it to somebody to design the layouts for you, or you can do it yourself. And then this is the final look and feel. Of course, depending on what color scheme your organization is using and the brand guide, but you get the idea. Always start with point and then think about what are some of the ways to organize the information, create a particular structure and kind of like technical framework behind it. And then the design comes naturally after that. So this is a no-brainer, and you don't really have to worry about, whether people are creative enough. They just have to fill in the blank space. Automatically, the slides will look good and clear because the hierarchy is there already. Okay, are we learning something so far? If yes, can you type in the chat? And I'm going to pause for a while before you go on to do your hands-on practice. Do you have any questions? Okay, so if you think this is useful so far, you can type yes in the chat. Okay. Any questions? Feel free to ask them now. All right, cool tips, right? Definitely. Okay, great. You can say no as well. Okay, it's not too late for me to add in stuff so that you benefit from today's session. Okay, we're just starting. Okay, so right now, what I'd like you to do is to try, and you might wonder, okay, how do I create this master templates? Don't get too technical yet. What I'd like you to do, if you already have a corporate template, I would like you to look at the slide layout. So how do you do that is this, okay? So open up your template and then click on layout at the top and then see what are some of the options. Evaluate, based on the common content that you present, are the options given sufficient? Or do you usually have to create slides from scratch where you create manual text boxes as what I've shown you earlier on? Okay, if that's the case, I would like you to maybe sketch about 2 to 3 additional layouts that you frequently use, either on a piece of paper or on a digital notepad. So you can put that aside, and later on, we're gonna kind of do the real thing. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you can have new layouts to use, okay? So let's have perhaps 2 minutes to sketch out something. If you're more of a word person, you can also put down in bullet points what kind of layouts you use, 3 columns with pictures, no pictures, etc. Good. 2 minutes starts now. All right, another 30 more seconds. And if any of you would like to share, feel free to do so as well. All right. How's it going, Penny, Natalie? Good. Mooney and Jeanette. If you need inspiration, also feel free to ask for it, okay? Talking about inspiration, if you're not so sure, even to today, because it's really a crash course about what are some of the layouts that you can use or can design, it's always good to kind of expose yourself to many different types of presentation slides that you like. In fact, if you see a presentation that you're like, wow, this is great, you can just take a screenshot. I usually have a folder, or if you use Pinterest, you can archive all of these nice posters with different layouts and style. And in the future, when your creative juice run dry, you can always refer to that, okay? So anyone needs more time to brainstorm on the layouts that you need or any inspiration? Otherwise, can you give me a thumbs up? The reaction button is at the bottom. If you're new to Zoom, it's at the bottom. Give me a thumbs up so that I know we can move on to the next. Awesome, Penny. Thanks a lot, Celine. How about Elsa, Mika, all good? Georgina, fantastic. Okay, so how do we create slide masters? It might seem like a really common question or common sense question, but I'm quite surprised that not a lot of people know. So if you're new to the slide master creation process, if you see my screen right now, at the top, okay, you'll see view. Again, your interface might be slightly different. So if I'm going a bit too fast, let me know. Okay, go to view. There would be an option called slide masters. So you want to click on this, and this is the back end. It's kind of like building a house. This is like the pillars of the house. And the frame that you see in dotted lines, this is what we call the placeholder. And this is where, say, insert headline here. Okay, how this works is that when you create a new slide with this divider, this is what's going to appear. Okay, and then when you click on it, it would be blank, but for you to fill in information like that. The styles, the font size, everything is already formatted and set for you. Okay, so this is how layouts work. And there can be numerous layouts that you can create. For example, I have one version with a header and a body text with a picture. And then I also have this one over here. Same thing. Do note that when you create this thing called a placeholder, instead of going to insert and then adding a text box like this, like hello, okay, don't do this. Instead of doing this, you want to make sure you're on the Slide Master tab. Click on this insert placeholder. What is the difference? This placeholder has a frame. This one does not, which means whatever text that I create manually, when it appears on the front end, it's not going to be editable. Like when I click on hello, I can't edit it, but this one I can. Okay, it's a little bit technical, but that's the difference. And okay, so now that we know how it works, then the thing over here again, go to Slide Masters, and there are a couple of things that I highly recommend that you format in your Slide Masters. If you take a look here, there are colors. Okay, so this one is a palette that I've customized for this template called HighSpark. You can customize it as well just by simply clicking on this button, and then you would be able to see the preview on the right-hand side. Just go according to your color palette. If you want to update, this is where you go. And there are also fonts that you can use. For Microsoft users, it's a very easy thing in order to just kind of install the font on your computer so that it appears over here. And for Mac user, it's a little bit tricky. So if you want to learn the technical details, you can ask me later on. I can send you some YouTube links. Okay, so once everything is set here, you can also change specific slide. Do you want the heading to be, in orange and then the rest to be in blue? Things like that you can set, or even down to the details. For example, I realized, bullet points. For example, this one, there are styles as well. So if you click on this little arrow, you would be able to see more options for you to then customize. Maybe I want my bullet to be orange instead. And maybe I want it to be in a, okay, probably not emoji, but maybe a little arrow. Okay, add it to this one, and then see how it changed from here. So can create the styling or even the distance between the bullet, etc. You can toggle it around. In terms of the distance, you have to go to shape format. There's another part, format pane, where you have this toolkit. Everything that you need here is under text option. Down from this, say margin. Okay, take a look where my mouse is over here, right? And then on the right, if I were to change the margin, the left-hand side, the bullet from the start of the box changes as well. So all these are very fine details that you have to take note of, but usually regular users of PowerPoint templates don't take note of this, and it really makes the marketing person, whoever creates a template, go a little bit crazy because it's not compliant. There's all these little details that are off. So if you're in that position, this is something that you can set for your template users first, so that it's really hassle-free. People don't have to manually create themselves, okay? So this is something to note. There are so many more, but I'm not going to go into the technical details. Actually, a lot of this can be found on YouTube. It's like, oh, how do I change the font size or bullet points, etc. Okay, today we're going to focus more on the big picture that can save you a lot of time rather than formatting. So things to take note in terms of making your template. Layout in terms of how you organize your content, or the fine details of styling, set everything up. And then you're going to do the magic. If you don't already have your own personal template, or you have a corporate template that you copy and paste, and then you have some layouts that are not really approved by HQ, but it's kind of internally used by your team, and you want to continue use the layout over and over again because it saves you time, you can actually save this entire thing in your desktop so that it appears as an option whenever you create like a new PowerPoint file. So how does that work? Has anyone done that before? Do you know how to save the theme of your presentation, the template that you have created? Can you type in the chat yes or no? Type in the chat yes or no, because I just want to be sure that I'm not going through things that you already know or you don't need. Okay. We've got a mix. Okay. I'm suspecting those people who say yes are probably in charge of templates in the organization. All right, so how do you do that? You see this button called Themes at the top. Under Themes, save current theme. And then you would be able to just maybe like HighSpark #2, okay? And it's in a THMX file. So click OK, close masters. And then now, if you, let me create a new presentation. If you create a new presentation altogether, for example, over here, okay, this is completely new, okay, no format at all. You can go to, one second, under design. This is usually where your theme would appear. And then you can browse for themes, or the custom ones that you have created that it's already installed on your computer should be available here. So just now I name it as HighSpark 2. Can you see it's quite tiny on the screen? HighSpark 2. Ta-da! Click off a button. Now everything is downloaded. So if you're regularly sending different versions of templates to your team members as well, usually it's not really a template, but more of like design slides or slides that are already designed, but the back-end infrastructure is still a little bit all over the place. This is something you want to do. Instead of getting them to download just the design slides, you want them to use this template with all the placeholders involved. Then I think you'll be more brand compliant. Of course, if you're an Empower user, everything else is taken care of. If you're done, with the onboarding, it usually would have some functionality for you to just click a few buttons. You don't have to worry about versions anymore. Every time when you have a new slide, it will appear in the system, and it would always be updated. All right, but this is for anyone who's a regular user. Cool so far? This part is a little bit technical, and let's see. So we have covered quite a few things. What's the best way to leverage slide? How do you create a slide master, and what even are the layouts that you should be using? The next thing that I would like to draw your attention to is this thing that is often overlooked, because I've seen my clients painstakingly edit the footer one by one before. Because, some organizations, you have different business units, right? And sometimes the business unit has a different kind of footer. Maybe the terms and condition is different, or maybe the logo is of a different color. And yeah, people do that. Like, you have 100 over slides and they have to like squint their eyes one by one, deleting. I'm not sure if any of you have gone through that nightmare before, but I hope not. If you have, there is actually a way to do it better. So again, take a look at this. There is a difference between a parent and a child slide when it comes to slide masters. So a parent usually kind of sets like themselves as a role model for the child, right? Similar to presentation on PowerPoint. So if you take a look at this big thing is what we call a parent slide. And then this small one is a child slide. So the child is going to inherit some of what you see in the parent. So I'll give you an example. If I were to put in, say, a logo, I'll put in perhaps a logo from our company. 1 second. Oh, actually, no. Okay, I'll add an icon. If you don't already know, you can do this directly on PowerPoint. So I'll add an icon over here. Oh, where did it go? 1 second. I'll add an icon, insert. Okay, just pretend that this is my logo. I'm going to put it at the bottom. What happens is all the child slide is going to inherit this thing that it's not a placeholder. So if I have maybe a separate business unit, instead of black color logo, it's orange. What I'm going to do is to copy, Control-C, and then Control-V, and then I'm going to change this to, say, orange. So again, you see everything here would be orange in color. And basically, the suite of layouts is going to be the same. The only thing that changed is the footer. And it's going to make a difference at the front end. So we're going to close Slide Masters. The front end, you can already see that this little icon is here. Okay. When I have layout, can you see this is one? It's under the section training. This is the one that I've copied. And we have this logo in blue. So if I want to change this, exactly this title slide to maybe another business unit, then this would appear. Okay. Some of you probably would see this thing on the right-hand side. If you're curious about what this is about, just to sidetrack a little bit, this is a relatively new function by PowerPoint with kind of AI built in it. So it would detect the kind of text, number of tags or images that you have on the slide and suggest layouts for you, but they're not exactly brand compliant. So we're not going to go into this. Design-wise, yeah, not so well as well. So just in case you're distracted by that, just want to call that out. Okay. So back to parent and child slide. This is how we make a difference. And you can easily name your slide by right-clicking and renaming. So if this is going to be like orange, it's easy for people to find. Again, people are going to know, okay, this is orange department, training department, consulting department, etc. And you can have a variety of different layouts for specific departments as well. That's not an issue. What you have is just one main template that can be used across your organization if you're worried about compliance issue or having too many versions. Okay, so this is how it works. And then this other thing as well, if you take a look over here. So as mentioned, whatever that you want the child slide to inherit, it has to be like either a shape or a manual text box. So if you take a look at this particular text here, this doesn't have the container, right? So this is a manual text box as opposed to the placeholder. So this is the difference, all right? So do note that. And once you have everything set up, just save as a save the current theme, and there you go, magic. Cool. Now, what if you have all the layouts that you need, but still sometimes, because maybe you don't necessarily have to use one specific special layout that you need to create from scratch. How can you save time? Because sometimes there are unique slides that maybe you only use once. Then this is where I'd like to introduce to you this other tip, which is to create your slides quite quickly with some of the principles we've learned about, like organizing the information, putting the graphics rather than top-down bullet point into columns. You can do it relatively quickly with SmartArt, but it's not what you think. I know there are people who hate SmartArts. I do as well, because I don't think the design is well, but there is a magic that we can do with this. So this is an original slide. Okay, how can we turn this into this? Okay, I'm gonna duplicate the slide just to show you how it works. Don't blink. Okay, so we have 3 bullet points, right? And then another 3 sub bullets. You want to highlight this entire text. Okay. you should be able to see this little icon on your home tab called Convert to SmartArt. And then it would give you a list of options, and you want to select the one that best suit the final layout that you want to choose. So for example, I want it to be column style with the image contained in circles. So I'm going to select just the text first and then put it like that. Whoa, already it is kind of evenly distributed place for you. But I don't really want this orange background thing. You can easily change it like this. Or if you want to remove certain elements, you can as well. Or if you don't like this thing, there's this SmartArt text, which sometimes I find a little bit clunky to use. What I'll do is actually to ungroup them, okay? So ungroup, it's Control-Shift-G, or you can just simply right-click. And then this no longer is a SmartArt anymore. It becomes an individual element that you can shift around. But I would recommend you to do this only after you are done with your layout. So before that, it's a SmartArt, right? Just want to get the kind of layout done first, evenly placed like this, okay? And then all these bullet points, I don't really need. So ideally, these are things that you see manually, things that you have to manually do. Ideally, with a template, you don't have to, because these are just small bullet points, okay? So once you're done, ungroup everything, and then maybe change the color. But I forgot one thing. I forgot to add in the image, which is key. So here, while it's in SmartArt, I have this dung beetle. I can copy this image, paste it in here. It would automatically already crop it for me. Okay. And then now I can remove them. Now then I can ungroup everything. I can remain it like that. Or if I want to make it into what you see in this other slide, I can as well. And typically, just a rule of thumb for any hierarchy of information, we have a subheading as well as the body text. You want to make the subheading as obvious as possible. So you can either use striking colors or in terms of font size, or it can be both, right? So I can do this, or like format paint, like this, and like this, okay? So there you go. It's if you're fast with the tool, you can do this under a minute. Again, highlight this entire thing, go to Convert SmartArt, and then just pick the layout that you like. Cool. I'm going to give you 1 minute just to try it out yourself if you're not already multitasking while I'm doing this. And let me know how it goes. Once you're done, you can type in the chat, done. It's very cool, right? I think this is quite a hack. All right, if you're done exploring this SmartArt feature, trying out on your own, you can type done in the chat. And then we're going to move on to one last power hack. All right, thanks, Jing Yang. Okay. Michelle, Celine. Okay, how about the rest? Okay, you can explore the tools at your own time or rewatch this session. It's recorded. Now, down to the last thing, I think for some of you who have attended our course, like the full course, you might know this, but if you forget, this is a good refresher. If not, this is one last very, very simple tool. So over here on this slide, you can see 2 circles, right? Sometimes, depending on the template that you use, when you create a shape, say a circle, it's going to be in a default color and style. So for instance, this is the default circle, orange with an outline. But what if I want most of my shapes to be in a darker color, like blue? Usually what happens is people would manually, kind of change the style, etc. But what you can do is, let's say this is the style that I want to use across my slide, okay? You can right-click, set as default shape, okay? And then now, whenever you create a shape, it doesn't have to be a circle, it can be a triangle. Ta-da! It is going to be this. And it's going to save so much time, especially if you maybe have certain special style that you want to use, like gradient, if that's part of your brand guide, then you know there are just too many steps. You can just right click and set as default shape. Then anytime you want to create a shape, this would be it. Okay, so this is the final thing that I want to show you. I believe based on the responses, many of you have learned something today, regardless of whether you're an Empower user or not. I just want to give Empower a little bit of shout out because after running many visual presentation courses by our company HighSpark, we have over and over again heard concerns and witnessed frustration of how people create slides in a very manual process. So even with some of these tips, it can be quite time consuming. So we're going to accumulate all these magic tools together in order to make it work. So in terms of Empower, I just want to highlight this thing that it's quite a game changer. Typically, in our organization, we also face this issue when we regularly update, maybe we call it a swipe file, and maybe we have numbers that we want to update as well. You know, usually in credentials, X number of clients, maybe this year is this number, next year is another number, or the amount of funds that our pitch decks have successfully helped startups to raise. So with all of this, so many files, and the files are usually really, really huge. So how do you deal with that? And Empower, basically, it's this thing where there are quite a few features. You can check it out on the website. But what I really like is this. So it has this all brand asset library, okay? And then you can, set whatever that we have talked about earlier on, custom it. But what is really, really powerful is this one. So you already have a library of like new information or old one. And instead of manually converting, your slides, and many of you just now selected B, right? Or C, like you copy and paste old slides to a new template. And sometimes it breaks the entire system. So with this, just a few clicks of a button, you would be able to convert your presentation old to a new design, provided that, it's the same layout. So that principle still stays. And then you can also brand check, and the library is going to be live. So maybe I want to add from 12 layouts to 20 layout. Like say John Ta would be able to know, like he doesn't have to read my emails to know that there are new layouts. It would just automatically be there when he creates slides. It's like, there's something new that I can use. Great. So do check them out. Highly recommend it. I think if you have more questions, Nelly is she's free to answer any of them. And if you're interested to level up your presentation, in not so much on the aesthetic way, but really clarifying your message through visuals, we have courses, crash course, 90 minutes, all the way to 1 day in different kind of formats, micro-learning, custom, and work with many clients. So that's one of the things that we do. Or if you're interested in leveling up your communication skills as a whole, there are so many different aspects, not just in presentation when it comes to, say, data visualization or storytelling, but in how you lead. How do you lead a team with different culture? How do you drive change and transformation? Or how do you negotiate? How do you problem solve, communicate some of these strategies to people? So all of this falls under the umbrella of communications. And I think we can't deny that communication is key in succeeding in both life and at work. So if you are already looking for some of these skills to learn, look no more. This is a screenshot that you can take, minus the acorn that was newly added. These are some of the programs that me and my team do provide and offer. And many of you are our clients here today. Do note that we also have new courses. I think some of these are new to you. So feel free to hit this screenshot and we'll send further details via email.